and welcome to our page at His Therapy. My name's Yvonne. I'm a pelvic health physical therapist accompanied by another pelvic floor physical therapist, Sabina. And we are bringing you an informational and educational video on prenatal stabilization and exercises. Now, before we go on, just to preface, I want to make sure that if you are pregnant and you do have any pain or dysfunction, or even if you don't, we recommend getting a consult from a physical therapist prior to starting any kind of workout regimen, whether it's a video online or a group class, just to make sure that you have a nice awareness of the body, a nice awareness of the pelvic floor and abdomen, so that you can go throughout your pregnancy active and make sure that mom and baby stay healthy. So a couple months ago, I gave an Instagram live class on the prenatal and more anatomical progression of pregnancy. So just a preview or a refresher. The baby starts off very tiny within the uterus that sits within the pelvic bowl. As it grows into the second trimester, it grows into the abdominal cavity. And then as it continues to grow and become the size of a watermelon, it starts pushing up on that thoracic rib cage, affecting the diaphragm, and the ribs can flare. Throughout that entire 9-month process, as the baby grows, it moves everything in mom's body around, including the muscles, the bones, and the organs. And all of that can lead to some instability, can lead to constipation, can lead to pain in the back, the hips, the pelvic bone, and even the pubic symphysis. So again, these are just some general exercises to focus on stabilization of the trunk so that we can maintain our posture and our integrity throughout pregnancy. Okay, so let's get started. We have Sabina here laying on her back with her feet down on the ground and knees up. So first we want to find neutral pelvis. So let's talk about pelvic tilts. If this is our pelvic girdle, we can tilt it forwards by pushing our bottom down, and backwards by lifting our pelvis up. We want to find our extremes so that we can find neutral, maintaining the nice curve of the sacrum coccyx, the lumbar, the thoracic, and the cervical. Okay, once we find neutral, then we can work on assessing and feeling our abdomen and our pelvic floor. So this is the optimal position for those muscle groups to engage. So when we think about lifting the pelvic floor, we want to imagine closing all 3 holes, beginning down at the anus, vagina, urethra, and holding it there and then letting it go the same trajectory. That'll allow for the pelvic floor to engage in a very efficient way. Engaging the abdomen should not be a clenching either. It should be a more drawing up and in feeling, like you're wearing a corset back in 1700s, okay? We want to do that together so that we can stabilize the pelvis and the low back. So let's start with just the general bridge. This is going to target the glutes to help stabilize that low back and pelvis, okay? So when we talk about lifting the glutes, we want to sequentially lift up, squeeze from behind the hips, feeling like 2 airplanes are taking off the front of the legs, and then bringing it slowly back down and releasing everything, okay? And then again, engage, stabilize before we mobilize, and then back down. Good. Very nice. So go ahead and flip over onto hands and knees. So this is quadruped. It feels really nice as you continue to progress into pregnancy to kind of offload any of our back structures as our breasts engorge, as our abdomen continues to get larger. This kind of allows gravity to help pull it down. But there are some elements that we want to make sure that the rest of our joints are in and stabilized. So making sure that the wrists are right below the shoulder blades, okay? We don't want them up by, we don't want our shoulders up by our ears. We want a nice long neck. Beautiful. See that neckline? If your shoulders are up by your ears, then we don't have the scapular stability, and we're allowing our front tissues to pull us down, okay? So we want a nice long neck, shoulders down and back, neck nice and long. Then our belly, we want to find that neutral spine again. Same thing when we were laying on the floor. So we can find our extremes by tilting forward and back. Good, and then once we find our extremes, we find middle. We want a nice curvature again of the cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and sacrum, okay? Think nice long line being pulled from the top of your head down to your tailbone, okay? So this is quadruped. Now if this is uncomfortable, especially in your wrists and hands, there are some variations that we can do. We can bring a ball, we can hug it. Go ahead and hug it for me, Miss Sabina. So this offloads the upper extremities completely. You don't have to weight bear into the hands or anything like that, and you can still assess the quality and stabilize the trunk and pelvic girdle, okay? If that is too easy or we want to progress from that, we can move to holding the ball or holding a pillow. So switch it out. So putting a pillow either, on those elbows, just like that. We can still find neutral in this position. And this also is a really nice position for relaxation, especially, again, if we're feeling any kind of pressure from that increased weight from our abdomen and breast. From here, if this is okay and we're doing well here, we can go up onto our hands. And we can kind of roll that ball or roll that pillow up a little bit, so that gives us a better ergonomic position of the hands and takes the pressure out of the wrist, okay? So if we can see here, she has a nice wide grip, because if we go back to our physics, greater surface area decreases pressure, so it takes it out of the wrist, and we have support underneath the fingers, okay? And again, we can still find neutral here. Okay, so the full expression of quadruped is just hands and knees. So find your most comfortable position. And then the last exercise that I want to talk about again brings us stability and focuses on the glutes. Okay? I'm a glute person. I'm all about strengthening those big butt muscles because they help stabilize us so much. So let's work on some hip extension, working on the glute maximus. Okay, so keeping the lever nice and short, engaging the abdomen, lifting the pelvic floor, and then lifting it up. And if this is too hard, you can always bend the knee, decreasing that lever, and then bringing it back down. We always want to make sure that we stabilize before we mobilize. So engage, try not to move anything else, and isolate up and back down. Good. We want to avoid, when you lift the leg, letting that belly drop and sag. We want to make sure it stays nice and lifted so that we can remain stable where we need to. And then back down. Good. So those are just some nice intro stabilizing exercises that you can do to stay stable throughout your pregnancy. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call, and we'd love to accompany you on your journey of pregnancy. Thanks, and have a great day.